Okay, so this is going to be a Spartan bare bones video, even more than my previous ones. I thank you all for sticking with me as I slowly develop this channel and smooth out all the kinks, calibrating everything. More is coming about other issues, other subjects, other forms of entertainment and culture. It's not just going to be Bob Odenkirk and Vince Gilligan. Anyway, I feel like I'm doing this channel in a trailer in the middle of the desert while everyone else on YouTube has a super lab, but no worries, we'll get there. This is just the beginning. Since I was not able to work on a video this weekend, I still wanted to do a quick one despite the time restrictions. Last week's episode 609 opened and ended in a perfect way with Jimmy quoting Mike and then with Saul using a phrase that Chuck previously used. These two scenes that sort of sandwiched the episode between them showed us the death of Jimmy, in my opinion, as he becomes an amalgam of the people he knows, but he is no longer. This week's episode was a nice breather from the whole Jimmy Saul semi-Breaking Bad. The beginning of this episode was wonderful as we slowly realized that Jimmy is conning Carol Barnett, the grumpy old woman who doesn't open up to strangers and hates the cheese that Tom Schnauz sends from Wisconsin. I love that he gets her to be the one turning to him for help. It echoes later in the episode when he gets Kathy to come up with the idea of keeping the box overnight. This is something that is actually a signature for real life con jobs. They don't lure the victim, they just let the victim choose the action that ends up emptying their pockets. Now I know I'm jumping ahead, but I just loved when he tells her he'll be there in 4 hours. And then when she protests, like, how dare you, 4 hours, he pretends he misunderstood her. He pretends that he thinks she's concerned about the toll it will take from him. And he says, instead of recognizing it as a genuine protest, he's like, oh, no, Kathy. I know you're worried about me, but that's fine. I love being on the road. And it reminds us of what happens between Eladio and Hector when Hector dinged away and Eladio kept pretending that this is just Hector saying, oh no, thank you, Mr. Eladio, I do not need your bed, you are too kind. Instead of Hector saying, Eladio, you SOB, you have to kill the chicken man. So I love how Eladio and Jean are using the exact same tactic, pretending that the other person isn't protesting, but thanking you for being too kind to them. Now, the main con job of the episode is quite delicious. I like the first time that Jean brings the Cinnabons to the two security guards. At first it feels like he may have spiked them and that this is the actual hit. And I love the twist that revealed that this was just Jean casing the joint, that even looking at his watch and taking time, it's all a part of the casing. And the most dramatic part of the episode was without a doubt when Jeff, the new Jeff, fell right in front of Jean's eyes. He was not prepared for it. many of us, I assume, were not prepared for it, even though the show did sort of hint at that. And I think that whether we saw it coming or not, we were all Gene at that moment, thinking about what we would do if we were him and if we were as unprepared as he was. And I really tried to put myself in that spot and go through all of the options in my head, and I came up eventually with 3 simple words: vacuum, vacuum, vacuum. So I love that Gene did not take it lying down, and he stayed committed to the action, going all in on the diversion and knowing it's the only thing that he could possibly do other than running away and disappearing once again. That scene also reminded me of an old Edgar Allan Poe story that I read a few years ago about a guy who is locked in a room that has different Inquisition torture devices that the Inquisition is operating remotely from the next room. And this guy, instead of just giving up and lying down and taking it, he keeps thinking of how to stall them and to stay alive. And the story, at least in the children-friendly version that I read, ends with the man being rescued. So it shows us that when you stall, yes, you are powerless, but you put your trust in others. And that gamble certainly worked for Gene, who only had to wait it out. And fortunately, Jeff woke up. Now, of course, that little distraction is identical to the way that Walt bugged Hank's office in Breaking Bad, as he was simply crying about his life, forcing Hank to leave the room unattended. Anyway, I am glad that this wasn't the episode that we were all waiting for, because although I am still waiting for Walt and Jesse with bated breath, I am glad that the week where I have to go bare bones is the episode that is used as sort of a breather. Oh, and how about that little opening credit sequence? There really is nothing I can say about that sequence other than just to acknowledge it. It was awesome. And lastly, how cool was it to see Schnauz Cheese? I love it when they use the name of a writer or producer on a TV show as an in-universe product. This is something that the writers of Tales from the Crypt did quite often back in the 90s, back when Mr. Shaw was on TV as well. So maybe Gilligan watched Tales from the Crypt and not only Mr. Shaw, and maybe it was an inspiration for the people in Better Call Saul, who knows. And what else? Well, this is pretty much it for now for this week. I'll have a lot more next week. There is still a lot coming to this channel, different kinds of videos, different subjects, but I figured that we should first just get through this ride together. And now with the Better Call Saul pretty much over, and with the Gene timeline moving somewhere, it feels like the next 3 episodes are sort of a show of its own, a dark trilogy that works as a companion to Breaking Bad instead of a prequel or a sequel. I really love this show and I love this fandom, and I can't wait to see what's next for Vince Gilligan, be it another Breakingverse project or something completely new and different. As always, be well.